Today, Russia held its annual Victory Day parade, Russia's celebration of the Soviet Union's role in the defeat of Nazi Germany, where Vladimir Putin once again tried to justify his murderous attack on Ukraine by baselessly framing it as a continued fight against the Nazis. But the Russian dictator did not announce any new escalation of the war, as some observers thought he might do. The military parade comes as Russia really is not doing well in this war, with a senior U.S. defense official telling NBC News that Russia's progress in the Donbass is somewhat anemic, and that the U.S. has seen anecdotal evidence that some Russian officers are refusing to obey orders. Ukrainian President Zelensky remains confident, saying today that, quote, very soon there will be 2 victory days in Ukraine, and someone won't have any. This comes as the West has given him a big show of support. First Lady Dr. Jill Biden crossed into Ukraine yesterday to meet with her counterpart, Ukrainian First Lady Olena Zelenska. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also made a surprise visit to meet with Zelensky and to raise the Canadian flag at the reopening of the country's embassy. And members of the band U2 traveled to Kyiv to perform in a show of solidarity for Ukrainian troops inside a makeshift bomb shelter. And today, President Biden signed a bill reviving a World War II Lend-Lease program that would speed up the process for U.S. military aid to reach Ukraine. With me now, Julia Davis, columnist for the Daily Beast, and Maxim Borodin, Mariupol City Council member. Thank you both for being here. Julia, I do want to start with you because this victory parade, there have been a lot of sort of presaging what might happen at this victory celebration on the 9th, and that it might be, you know, an opportunity for Putin to announce an escalation of the war, to sort of try to proclaim some sort of victory. He did neither. What do you make of that, and what are they saying on Russian state TV about it?
There is no victory for him to proclaim. They're not doing well, and even on state TV, that kind of an admission is starting to break through. They're admitting that their economy is not able to maintain this war effort. They've even talked about having a crowdfund drones. They're very envious of Ukraine's supply of Turkish-made drones. And also for Putin to announce any type of an escalation would already be an admission of defeat. He framed this offensive as a special military operation because he counted that it would be something akin to what happened in Crimea. It would be quick and relatively painless. The sanctions would be manageable, and it would be all over before you knew it, and he would be sitting with an entire country in his pocket. Of course, it didn't work out that way. And if he starts calling it a war, that would mean that he failed to achieve his goals through the military operation, and I don't think he's willing to admit that. There are arsons happening at the military enlistment offices in Russia, and people are growing more and more resistant to this war. And on state television, they're trying to scare people into fighting against Ukraine, which they're framing as a war against NATO. And they're claiming that the West, if they manage to crush Russia, would open up concentration camps there and subject all Russians to mandatory sterilization. So there are fear tactics that are being applied both internally and externally, where the rest of the world, the Russians keep threatening with nuclear weapons, because basically that's all they've got to threaten us with.
Yeah, and meanwhile, they're putting on what sure does look like North Korea. Those images look like straight out of North Korea with the sort of big military parade. I'm wondering how much money they spent on that, how many rubles that are pretty much worthless at this point. Maxim Borodin, how it must be very strange to watch this sort of propaganda failure take place across the border, while in reality, in Ukraine, Russian forces are still massacring people.
It's very hard to look for the Russian propaganda video. They always make a lot of lies. Most of their news are lies. Today we've seen some short videos from Mariupol where the invaders and collaborators take part in some kind of celebration. But the most people on this video is not local. But most cynical in this celebration, that invaders is made a show with the biggest flag in the world, and they did it against the background of the fact that in Mariupol, the work on cleaning rubble and getting dead bodies out of them is not nearly finished. Warm weather makes them decay much faster, and the smell of Russian atrocities is in the air of this celebration. So it's terrible.
Yeah. And Mr. Borden, what is it? Does it at this stage, does it mean a lot to Ukrainians for people like Dr. Jill Biden to come, for U2 to come and perform, for, you know, the Canadian Prime Minister to come? What does that mean? And what does that do, if anything, for the people in Ukraine?
I think any help for Ukraine, any moral help is very important. But in addition to obtaining the high precision weapon, we need jet planes, and we need to impose total sanction on Russia. No Russian gas, no Russian oil to USA or to EU countries at all. And with this all help, we can stop Putin. Without this help, Putin not stopped in Ukraine and going further and further to EU countries. And even now we see the global problem of the Russian war in Ukraine, the problem with grain and problem with food for all the people, for all the world. So Putin don't kill people only in Ukraine. He killed people in all the world, but he will make it tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think everybody watching the show agrees with you on that. And Julie, I wonder, you know, there was even sort of this attack, Russian satellite TV, like sort of message, they sort of hacked into it, and it altered the message that people saw on their screens, and it said you have blood on your hands, according to screen grabs that were obtained by Reuters. So there's that sort of stuff. But is there value in your mind, or what is the reaction, I should say, to things like that? And to things like Dr. Biden and, you know, U2 and sort of pop culture and the sort of world converging inside of Kyiv to show support to Ukraine. Does that have any resonance inside of Russia?
I believe it does, because a lot of people simply choose to believe in propaganda because that frees them of accountability or of feeling guilt. But these kinds of reminders are powerful. There was also an entire website called Lenta where there was a number of articles that were published exposing Putin's role in this war and calling him paranoid, describing the bloody massacre that he is inflicting upon Ukraine. It is very important, and especially Putin is all about symbolism, and every gesture of support is important, not only for Ukraine, but also a reminder to Russia that it's not getting away with what it's doing, and it will be up to the global community to stop him.
Julia Davis and Maxime Borden, thank you both very much.